Hi, this is Ben Llewellyn. Today I'm talking about the Etruscan language, an ancient language of Italy. And by the end of this video, you will know how the language worked essentially and what it was. Hey, hit that subscribe button, it really helps the channel. Thanks. Let's look at some of the background of the language. This is not an Indo-European language like Latin or Greek. So it was competing with those at the same time. There would have been books in this language. We know that there were. Etruscan was spoken well before 700 BCE, but from this point we get writing coming, taken from Greeks and innovated in their own way. And over the next few centuries, going all the way up to the 1st century of the Common Era, this is the language we're talking about in northern Italy, in Tuscany, present-day Tuscany. Livy and Cicero both wrote that the Etruscans had books on divination and reading entrails of animals to create prophecies. They had a 26-letter alphabet, but they didn't need the letters B, D, and G, because C in Etruscan was either used for both, or they didn't really have those stops that were a bit further in the mouth. They had a very different sound system in their language, so they wrote things differently. But they definitely had the F and the F sounds, and they innovated the letter for F. Etruscan is part of the Tyrrhenian language family, we think, for a purpose. That includes Rhaetic to the north in the Alps, and a small dialect perhaps of Etruscan, maybe its own language, on the Greek island of Lemnos. Etruscan itself is in northern Italy. It may have been carried over into parts of modern-day Croatia, we don't know, and inscriptions have been found in Corsica, France, Greece, the Swiss Alps, and the broader northern Adriatic region. It's not related, like I said, to any Indo-European language, which makes it very difficult to analyze and assess. But what we do have enables us to get a true glimpse into how it works. The modern story of Etruscan begins with a mummy. Yeah, a mummy. An Egyptian mummy. In the 1840s, in 1847, a mummy was found with some strange wrappings around it, and it was made out of an old book. Paper was much more valuable then than it is now, so you didn't just throw it away, did you? And this wrapping was made out of a book, and they figured out that it wasn't Latin or Greek, and they took it to Zagreb in modern-day Croatia, where it's been ever since. That mummy, though it gave us a lot of text, 1,500 words, only 50 of those words are even new, because so many of them are repetitive. And that's the problem that we have a lot with Etruscan. We have text, but they're using the same words. They're not giving us new words. And so our vocabulary is extremely limited. What we have is a book about a calendar and rituals to do with the year in the Etruscan language. And this is the longest piece of Etruscan that we have. Most Etruscan that we have comes from tombstone type things, gift offerings. So a lot of the words are repetitive. We have the same verbs, and it's difficult to get a broad vocabulary. But I'll share some of that vocabulary, what we do have with you in this video. This stone tablet here, Kippis Perennisis, is one of the longer texts that we have in Etruscan, and it's bilingual. It appears much of it to be a legal text, but we're not able to discern all of it, and a lot of it is repetitive in terms of which vocabulary that is in it. How does the Etruscan language work in a grammatical structure? What does it look like? Etruscan had a case system. Not like French, Breton, English, Welsh, if you speak those languages, they don't have a case system. But languages like Latin did, German does, Romanian does, Russian does. It had 5 cases, and let me just run through really quick so you know what I'm talking about. Just so you know what a case system is, you get nouns or words for things or people, and they change depending on what's happening. The word for son is clan. And if it's of the son, if the son owns it, or if it's coming of him, it's clans with an S at the end. But if something is going to the son, that would be clan-shi. The changes in that ending is going to carry across different people and nouns, so you know that the movement around it. And in that way, it's an agglutinative language. The word for city is spur, and if it's in the city, it would be sprafi. It goes further and has endings that you know it belongs to something. So sprana would be belonging to the city. Zamathi is gold, but if it's golden, it becomes zamfik. So these endings tell us a lot about the language. It's not much to go on, but it's something. Here's an example of the dative case. Mirathiale zichuchi. I was written for Araf. And Araf is in the middle. You get a lot of sentences like this, which are gifts speaking about themselves. Like the gifts have personalities. If you know these in any language based upon case, you can pick it up a lot quicker. Here are some common words. So here are some basic words, so you can get an idea how different this language is. Flare, an offering or sacrifice. Aiser, a god. Neri, water. Lautun, family. Mlusna, one who sacrifices. Talitha, girl. Zeke, a book. Thesan, the morning or the dawn. What about pronouns like are, you, him, her? Let's look at that. We don't have many pronouns, but what we do have, we have me, means I. That's easy to remember. And if you're being accused, directing at you, it's me. Yeah, so the names of people and things change according to what's happening. You, un. If it's for you or to you, it's une. And if it's plural, accusative, it's unu. And all those are plural, by the way. We don't have all the pronouns. We're missing they and them. We have he, she, and it because they're all the same thing. There's no distinction for gender in Etruscan. An is personal, and in is inanimate. We know that ka is this, kashuthi, this is the grave, klathesan, of this morning, in daylight. And really we just have fragments like this. One good way to assess how split apart from other languages a language is to look at its numbers. So how do these people count? Here are the numbers in Etruscan. 1 is thu, 2 is zal, 3 ki, 4 sha, but that could be 6. We're very confused about the numbers. We're not sure. 5 could be mach. 6 is probably huth, but we could have 4 and 6 confused. 7 is probably semth. We're not sure. 8 is kesb. 9 is nerf. 10 is shar. But look at 13. Kishar. 16 huthzar. And this is a familiar counting system to you. And what we might have here is that Etruscan may have influenced Latin, and we may get our counting system from the Etruscans, but we're not sure. Etruscan influenced Latin as Latin assimilated it out of existence. And you get many words which are very common to us today, which come from Etruscan. Let's have a look at that. The word triumph came into Latin from Etruscan, though there was some Greek contact blending Etruscan and Greek. And let's go into more of these that you might be familiar with, which show you that the inheritance of Etruscan is our inheritance as well. The word belt, like you wrap around your waist to keep your trousers up, comes from Etruscan word belteus. The word for an arena, like you play in a sports arena, appears to have come from Etruscan, though we don't have an exact word that we know of it being from. The word for person comes from verso, meaning mask. You can kind of see how that might have transmutated over time to carry on the word person. The word for military, which comes from Latin miles, comes from Etruscan into Latin, and you get militia, militant, all these words which branch off of that. That's an Etruscan root. And then you get the word for satellite, probably comes from the Etruscan word satinal, meaning kind of a guardian, protector. So it has left some imprint upon our culture today. It's a small echo, but it is there, and it's useful to know just to get a better grasp of what formed us. A lot of Etruscan words came from other languages other than Latin or Greek. So you had languages around both Latin and Etruscan, like Umbrian and Oscan. So you get the word for community, tuthi, which comes from the Umbrian word tota, and this is definitely an Indo-European word. So you get in Welsh, tid is related to that. It means people, an older word in Welsh for people, and in Irish, tuatha. So you can see how these Indo-European languages were influencing Etruscan. And that's important because knowing how languages influence each other helps you learn other languages. There are simply words for everyday objects which we don't know. Like basic yes or no, how to ask a question, even words for some types of family members. Sadly, we have all these family words, but we don't have any word for sister. That's missing. We have that family member missing, unfortunately. So it's very much a language with a deep cultural inheritance, but one without a deep grasp of. And hopefully we'll find more objects or remnants of etchings which will give us more information about it. But in the meantime, it's good to know that it exists and how it works and how different it was to the other languages around it, because our own inheritance in Western civilization, it's not just all Latin and Greek, though it's important to learn those as they're the bedrock of our culture. But there are other cultures that influence Latin and Greek. The accent in the Etruscan language we know was on the initial syllable. So Rasena, the name for their people, over time became Ratsna. Accent shifts are not uncommon in languages, and any language that you study is going to have these. So it's interesting because it shows that this was a living language that changed over time. It shows progression. This was the language of a very complex and refined civilization. We have evidence, deep evidence, that they would have written down prophecies, a lot of stuff to do with religion. And we know that there was a book on their history, but that's all been lost. What we have are really the bare bones of something that was much greater. It's literally like if all we had of the English language were a bunch of tombstones and a few etchings on pottery, and all the rest of the heritage had been lost. That's really what we have, and it's important that we keep what we have and try to expand our knowledge of it, and that its inheritance is a part of the Latin inheritance by default of absorbing the Etruscan culture. Etruscan was an agglutinating language. See my video on agglutinative languages. Gluing languages, adding suffixes and prefixes onto things to change meaning and to convey deeper layers of meaning, which is very different to Latin. I hope you see now that the Etruscan language, there's a lot there that we don't know, but what we do know accentuates what we know about Latin and Greek and our own inheritance. Hey, please hit that like button if you like this video and leave me a comment. I'll get back to any comments that I can and try and answer any questions that you have. And we'll see you in the next video. Diolch yn fawr am wylio. Thank you very much for watching.